So a super quick recap on how stash busting is going before we kick off this video. The last video did not go as well as I had hoped. I mean, my whip count went down, which is great, but I didn't use up a whole lot of stash yarn. I managed to use up a whole 8 grams of yarn, and that was courtesy of this snowflake cushion. The whole reason it had become a languishing whip in the first place is that I had run out of the yarn to join it all together. That is now done. As soon as it's got a cushion pad, it's finished, so it is what it is. On the downside, my stash total is about to go up. So my festive higgy cushion, that's this one here, where I did the whole Joyeux Noël. I'm technically waiting for the cushion pad to finish crocheting this one together, but I have this much left. Sewing up that one side is not going to use this much yarn, and rightly, wrongly, stupidly, I decided that any yarn that was associated with an active whip didn't get counted in stash total, possibly to make myself feel a little better about the ridiculous number that came out as my total. So yeah, that's shortly going to be going in stash. Great. And another good news, bad news project. I finished a new pattern. Yippee! But there's this much yarn left. So this is going to be going in stash too. I will let you know once I've weighed this what the new total is. Hopefully not too much higher than it is at the moment. So before I show you the patterns that I have picked out to work on now, I wanted to say a huge thank you to all of you who commented on the last video. You gave me so many amazing suggestions on things to crochet, either techniques or actual patterns. You told me where you are in your journey, how it's going, or not going, and yeah, I'm just so amazed and so grateful for the input that you're having, and you are certainly going to be influencing some of the patterns that I select. I'm not sure if they'll come in today's video or another one, but some of these will be coming up soon. In particular, I want to say thank you to Kathleen, at least I'm assuming that's your name, I apologise if it's not, based on your YouTube username, who suggested that I make some knitted knockers for ladies who have had mastectomies. I think this is a fabulous suggestion, and as soon as I find a pattern, I'm going to be giving it a go. So the first project that I'm going to be working on is actually knitting, and there are multiple reasons why I have gone for this. Number one, I am a beginner knitter who really wants to learn and get better. My ultimate goal is to make some knitted socks. I won some gorgeous sock yarn last year that I would really like to be able to use, but I want to use it for knitted socks rather than crochet socks. Not that I have anything against crochet socks, I've made plenty of them, but I really want to have a go at knitting with them. Now, when I say I'm a beginner knitter, I really mean I'm a beginner knitter. Whilst I did start learning towards the end of last year, currently my repertoire includes knit stitch, purl stitch, decrease 2 purl stitches together, decreasing 2 knit stitches together. That is it. I have only done projects that are flat and then require seaming, or just, you know, flat anyway. So I decided that the next step would be to do something in the round. And fortuitously, I also need to make a Secret Santa gift for somebody this year. So I thought, let's try a hat. It's not too tiny, so hopefully I can get the hang of things. And it'll involve me learning, you know, that new skill of working in the round. So I went browsing on Ravelry, and oh my word, there are a lot of hat patterns, most of which are completely outside of my skill base. But I have decided to go with this one. So this is the Larch hat by, sorry if I say this wrong, Rachel Kieselberg, and I'm going to be giving it a go today. Now I have already picked out the yarn, so this is a sage coloured yarn based on what my Secret Santa gift recipient said that they like. So she likes natural greens and autumnal colours, so I thought hopefully this sage will go okay. And if I bring it up here, I've already knitted the swatch, so this is some of the ribbing I assume from the hat, and I think I'm on gauge. I mean, I say I think because the gauge says when stretched it's gonna have this many stitches, and I'm like, but it's ribbing, like how much stretch do I stretch when I'm counting? So I spoke to Margaret from my knitting group, who is very experienced in comparison to me, and she said, it's rib, just get on with it, it'll fit. So that's what I'm gonna do, and fingers crossed I won't run into any hiccups. Okay, so I have my yarn, my needles, and a stitch marker to use as the marker that apparently I need, I assume because I'm working in the round. I've watched a quick video by Nimble Needles, and hopefully this means that I will successfully cast on in the round. Now, using a long tail cast on because it's the only cast on method that I know, and the pattern doesn't specify what to use. But how much yarn should I give to the long tail? I'm not sure I know the answer to this one. I'm gonna have like a massive guess, and okay, I'd rather it be too long than too short, so I'm just gonna go with that much, and we'll see how we get on. And if you know a way of estimating fairly accurately, please let me know so that I can avoid wasting yarn next time. Equally, because I did not have any circular needles of the right size, I'm going to attempt magic loop, again something I have never done before, so fingers crossed that I can get all of these new things to work that I have never done before. Yeah, wish me luck. Okay, now for the moment of truth. Did I actually cast on the right number of stitches? Ah, I actually got the right number. If you have any advice for how to cast on more evenly, yeah, please also let me know. Now, he said the next thing to do was to, oh yeah, to do the magic loop bit. So, to put it at the end, and then pick a point roughly halfway, and pull out the loop. Okay, I now have a loop. And then to not get them twisted, pull them back to the needles. Oh, this is a little bit fiddlier than he made it look. Hopefully won't lose any loops. Okay, now for the bit of the joining in the round. Oh gosh. So, if I move these a bit closer. He said to move this loop over to that needle, and then take this loop over and off, and then tighten it up. Okay, I think I'm joined, and hopefully I'm not twisted. So he then said to bring it back around this way, pull this needle out to work with, and off I go. Okay, I think we're off to a good start. Let's see how we do. Okay, so I've worked across that one, and then I'm supposed to put this one back on the needle, pull this one out, and then sorry, Allie. Oh, I really hope I'm doing this right. We shall soon find out, I suppose. And oh gosh, have I twisted it? Let's keep going. I'm really struggling to keep my tension the same when swapping between knitting and purling. I changed how I do things based on what a friend said to something that was more efficient. Like I can now pick up stitches for, is that what you call it, picking up for knitting, which I really do like, but I really struggled to not move my hand around a ridiculous amount to purl. I don't think I've mastered that yet. And then once I've done my purl stitches, I've got all this room here, and I like to have my fingers stay close for the knit stitches. So how do I stop moving my fingers so much for my purl stitches? Yeah, drop some advice in the comments. So it took me that long to do one row. I'm gonna stop recording so that you can actually see when I've made some progress. So I'm getting there slowly but surely. I've got my trusty ruler to hand as I have to keep going until I hit 3 inches, which hopefully won't take too much longer. I think I should definitely be able to finish the rib today, and then who knows with regards to the rest of the hat. So all is not going well. Yeah, my hat has caused me a little bit of stress recently. I'll show you where I'm at. Ooh, and there goes a stitch marker. We're off to a good start. So you might say, well, I don't see what the problem is. It looks absolutely fine, you know, bar a couple of stitches where my tension's gone a bit funny. Yeah, so it was probably somewhere around this point where I did something, and being a beginner, I really don't know what that something was. I don't think I just dropped a stitch, because I learned last time with a crochet hook how to pick stitches back up. Maybe I accidentally added a stitch, or I really don't know what I did. All I know is that I found a problem here, tried to fix it, carried on all the way across to this side, and then realised that I had a hole here where I thought I'd fixed it and evidently hadn't fixed it properly. So I tried to be really good, and I was like, okay, I've only like done half a row since whatever happened. I can pick that backwards and carry on and fix it and whatever. Yeah, so I tried to rip it back to there. I know that going backwards in knitting is a lot harder than going backwards in crochet, and the stitches on my needle, yeah, looked interesting. And then I somehow couldn't figure out which stitch was the first stitch of the round, and I got really flustered and I ended up frogging the whole thing. See, now what I should have done was, when I spotted the problem, stuck a stitch marker in it or left it as it was. Hello, Ali. Sorry, my cat Ali here, just here. And taken it to my knit and crochet group that I go to once a week and gone, help, please, I don't want to lose all this hard work I've done. And instead I had to start from scratch. But I'm back to the point, roughly, where I went wrong. And I think I've got another couple of inches of hat before I start the decreases, and then I'm done. Now, the downside, I mean, aside from, you know, the lost time and effort and everything else, I had planned to do some matching-ish, you know, same colour at least, hand warmers, or at least like fingerless gloves to go with it, because this is going to be my Secret Santa gift. I now do not think I'm going to have time to do that. I go on this trip where I'm going to see everybody and do the Secret Santa swap in less than 3 weeks. I think I might have to sew part 2 of the gift, because sewing is so much faster. And, you know, it'll add more confusion as to who on earth their Secret Santa is, unless they happen to watch this video. So, yeah, wish me luck for finishing this without making a massive boo-boo again. In happier news, I have just finished a new tutorial, and it's not how to crochet this, it is how to read an overlay mosaic crochet chart. But the benefit is I had to make this tiny sample so that I could show people how to read a chart and then how to put the chart into stitches. So I have used this much yarn. I specifically chose chunky yarn because it's yarn I want to get rid of. I don't tend to use it much in my blankets these days. And I picked 2 colours that had less than 1 ball of each so that, you know, the bigger quantities were left for bigger projects. So we shall see at the end how much yarn I managed to, I don't want to say waste, because this sample is, you know, part of the tutorial and therefore is bringing benefit to somebody. Technically it's big enough that I could use it as a mug rug, although I'm never a fan of the little tassels, so I'd have to add an envelope border first. But hey, it's less yarn in the stash, so I'm counting it as a win whilst I work on this hat. I one day aspire to be like my friend Rebecca, who can knit without even looking at her stitches. Yeah, I'm definitely not at that stage. And at this rate, I will be done by Christmas, which is far too late. Maybe I should just buy some circulars. But the whole point was to work from stash and therefore not spend money on lots of needles that I don't already have. Not that I have a lot of needles, being a new knitter, where I literally just bought a set of interchangeables to get started with. So that's also one of the reasons why I picked this pattern. The original pattern that my friend had suggested, I didn't have the right
needles for. I mean, assuming that my tension was even remotely close to their tension. So I picked something where I already had all of the supplies, because that's the whole point of stash busting, to use what you've got and not buy extra stuff. Or at least to buy minimal extra stuff so that you can use up your stash. Let's just hope that I can even out those oddly tensioned stitches I've got here and there. For some reason, I think the way I put it away one night, it changed the position of where I had my magic loop. I don't know if that caused the tension problems, or whether just where I was doing the magic loopy bit, that causes tension problems. I've heard that sometimes it can be quite obvious where it was, so yeah, let's hope blocking fixes it, and that my secret Santee gifty person, I mean, she's lovely and she of course will love it anyway, doesn't mind that it might have a few odd looking stitches in it and be very basic compared to her incredible knitting skills. So I've got a few minutes to work on a blanket before I head into my next meeting. Hopefully that'll allow me to add an extra row or two, although finishing this blanket won't shrink my stash. Because it was an active project, when I did the cataloguing, I didn't count it in the total. I am really hoping there's not too much left over.
So today is a bit of a good news, bad news kind of stash busting update. Good news, I finished another blanket. I finally put the border on, it is done, and this is my January 2025 Cal blanket. So I am super excited to be finished. Bad news, hi Ellie. Sorry, you can probably see her tail here. Is that the yarn does not come out of my stash busting total. Now, it is not a complete loss because over half of the yarn in this blanket was from stash. It's just that I started it before I started the official stash busting count. Okay, my neighbour is having some roof work done. Please excuse the noise in the background. So the leftovers do need to go back into stash, and there's a fair bit of leftovers. So yeah, that was not what I was hoping for, but you know, it is what it is, and I'm sure I still have plenty of opportunities to use up that yarn very, very soon. The next thing that I wanted to show you is the progress that I have made on my Secret Santa hat. Now, it is very nearly finished. I only have a few stitches left at the top, but I don't really understand the last row of instructions. So I'm waiting for my knit and crochet group tomorrow, where hopefully one of the lovely ladies will help me figure out the last bit, and then I just have to cast off. And then I just need to use this to make a gigantic pom-pom. I mean, it's not as gigantic as I would like. I quite like the enormous pom-poms on hats, but this is the biggest one I have, so it'll do. Now, what is happening next? I'm sure you've been asking yourself that the whole video. Well, next weekend I am going on a crafting retreat with some friends. We started a crafting group during COVID, during lockdown. We meet online once a week, and last year, for the first time ever, a massive proportion of us all met face to face, spent the whole weekend crafting, and had a heck of a lot of fun. So I've been spending my day trying to decide which projects I'm going to take with me. I figured I would share them with you too. First up, and probably using the most yarn, although I'm not sure if I counted this in my stash or not, because technically it was a started project, but if I show you, so yeah, technically it was a started project, but all I have done is the gauge swatch. So how started that is, I don't know. I'm gonna have to check my Ravelry stash to see whether I did count this in my stash total or not. If not, I really hope I use a lot of this yarn. I mean, I bought the number of balls that they specified in terms of like yardage. It's not the exact yarn, but fingers crossed that all of this, or at least most of this, goes into my jumper. I do not want to be playing yarn chicken, but I don't want to be left with like 5 balls at the end. So wish me luck with that one. The next thing that I wanted to do was to use up some of my cotton stash. So I've decided to make a project bag. I've had a look at a few different ones on Ravelry, and this is the one that I have decided to go for. Now, this is the cotton yarn that I have the most of the same brand, and I'm trying to use the same brand all in one go if I can, just because I don't have to worry about gauge or switching hook size or anything like that. So I'm thinking of putting like grey as the main colour, because that's what I have the most of, and then maybe the pink and the purple, possibly with a bit of the green as like little stripes on the bag. I guess we'll see what happens as I go, because I honestly don't know how big it is.
Like, it tells you how many meters or yards that you'll need, but yeah, I don't know how much I have compared to that, and obviously that just tells you for the whole bag, not if you're gonna use multiple colors. So let's hope that turns out nicely and that I have time to do it on my weekend away. The last project or projects that I'm definitely taking with me really need to be done on this weekend because they're going to be Christmas presents. Technically one is for myself just because I want to match my kids, but it's making new hats for the kids. Their hats are getting a little bit ratty, and the Tiddler hasn't had a handmade hat from me yet because the ones I made her as a newborn didn't fit at all. They were far too small. So I looked again at a wide range of patterns, and these were the ones that made the final cut. Now, the one that I finally decided to go with was for a variety of reasons. Number one, this one here is Tunisian crochet, and whilst I really would like to practice more Tunisian crochet, I don't have all of the required hook sizes. I only have like 2 hook sizes at the moment, plus the cables. So given that I'm trying to stash bust and therefore not spend money, I decided to put that one on hold, maybe use it next year. I know technically that would be spending money on notions and not yarn because I have plenty of the yarn that you need, but you know, trying to keep costs low for Christmas, trying to use up what I have before I buy anything else. So that one has to go to the wayside. Equally, these ones were excluded because they only come in a single size or just an adult size, and I really want us all to match. Although unfortunately, my husband won't be matching because he rarely wears hats, therefore I'm not going to make him one. So I found trying to pick out yarn from my stash quite tricky for this hat. Not because I didn't have loads of lovely, beautiful colours left, because I was just like, oh, but those colours coordinate really nicely and I could make something bigger out of it. Or no, they really wouldn't like those colours. So I was trying to use as much as I could of single colours or pairs of colours without using up stuff that I thought I could use in a bigger project. And yeah, it was tough. So I've decided to use some of my leftover Highland heathers for the Tiddler's hat. So she will be almost 2 by Christmas. Purely because, I mean, I would prefer to have this colour hat for myself. I mean, I've got like ear warmers and I think a scarf in this yarn, but there isn't enough for me. There isn't even enough for my older 2, but there is enough for the Tiddler. Next, my older 2. So I debated about whether to make them the same colour hat or different colour hats. They often fight over hats and gloves and things, so in the end I decided to go with just making them exactly the same. So one yarn that I have more than enough of, but that I've really been struggling to find a project for, is this. So it is some, oh, labels in there somewhere, oh, other way around. It's some Hayfield Spirit DK. Now, as you can see, I had a bit of a disaster with the first ball. It took me, well, I attempted a centre pull. I rarely attempt centre pulls because I don't have a great track record, as you will see in another video that I have coming up, but I really wanted to give it a go. So I did, and had a lot of yarn buff. But you know, I carried on, I untangled it, I started crocheting, and then within like 5 rows of my project, the whole ball collapsed. This ball is now one big knotty mess. So I'm gonna start with this one that is not a big knotty mess and hope that I don't have to untangle too much of this one in order to use it. I might beg my husband as like part of a Christmas present to untangle that one for me. Do you think he will? Please say yes. I really dislike untangling yarn. And unfortunately there wasn't enough of the pink to make a matching one for myself, although technically I could use it for the Tiddler, I suppose, but I don't know. I have no idea what her favourite colours are yet. She hasn't exactly got to the age where she can tell me. But personally, I'm not a huge fan of pink. I mean, at least those shades of pink. I like the quite dark pinky purple kind of pinks. So I decided to go with something else. Now, much as my favourite colour is purple, and I would love a purple hat, number one, my last hat that I crocheted for myself is a purple hat. I could have used a different shade, yes, but all of the shades that I have left I thought went really well together, so I thought I could use them for a bigger project. So I decided to go for something else. And I've had to go for 2 yarns because I didn't have enough of each. So I am going to do this. I'm going to have cream and brown. Now I haven't quite decided how I'm going to break it up, but I was thinking of maybe a white brim, like where it has the ribbing at the bottom, and then brown for the rest. I don't know, maybe I should put the cream as like featured stripes going through the hat. Oh, I don't know. Let me know what you think would work best, because believe it or not, this video is going up on the first day of the retreat, so if you comment quickly, I will still be able to adjust things. Given that all of the rest of the hats are Christmas presents, I am going to do those first, so you can very much influence my decision on how to work up this hat. This is my little cat Allie. I do have another one. So I have never cast off using a tapestry needle before, so I'm hoping it is just a case of shoving it through the stitches and pulling it tight. We're about to find out. So maybe I should move them closer to the end of my needle. Oh, you can tell I'm an amateur knitter. Right, now for the test. Well, it's inches together, so I'm going to count that as a win. Okay, so not too terrible. Nice and stretchy. But I do have some stitches that are obviously like here and here. We've obviously either gone wrong or just have very different tension to the rest. Oh gosh, there's another one there. I don't know if that's part of the whole magic loop method or whether that's just my beginnery knitting, but I'm not sure whether blocking would help or how you'd block such a stretchy hat. Yeah, let's make a pom-pom. So I'm going to try and use up all my little scraps. So this is the tail I just cut off from the cast on. No, I'm gonna have to put some tension on that until I put the next bit on. And here, oh gosh, is the scrap from the original cast on that was even more disproportionate before I unraveled the whole hat and started again. Now for the only fun bit in my opinion, chopping the layers apart. Okay, moment of truth. Ugh, there we go, that's one half. I've already pulled out a few of the little bits. Great. Pull it nice and tight again. Okay, not the world's worst, I don't think. Right, now to attempt to make it a bit less higgledy-piggledy. And, oh gosh, it's awful. There we have it. One large hat as a Secret Santa gift. Now to weigh the leftover yarn. Okay, so time to weigh all of our leftovers and see where the stash total is going to finish. So if we start with the teal, let's take all of the extra bits and pieces off. We have 85 grams left, which gives us a minus 15 grams. So we're off to a good start. And don't forget, this does not include the cream from earlier, so I will add that onto the total. Then, oh yeah, take these bits off. For the cream, we have 57 grams. I'm not going to do that maths in my head. I will use a calculator for that because I will only embarrass myself. For the parchment, we have 64 grams. Spice, we have 42 grams. Kelly green, haha, nice small amount. 4 grams, that's a win. White, so we've got a full one plus, let's just wind this end back on, 35, so 135 gram. And oh gosh, which one is fuchsia and which one is magenta? I want to say that this one is fuchsia. I will double check that before I stash them. That one is magenta, so that's 68 grams. Fuchsia is 19 grams. And then if we turn over, we had some existing yarn in the stash. So turquoise is 13. So because I have a whole skein, that's an increase. And proper purple, same problem. So that's gone up to 114 grams. So that's plus 13 grams, plus 14 grams. We go back to this side, these are all pluses as well. That that's a minus 16 grams. And the cream Aran from the cushion is minus 8 grams. Let's add up our total. It's annoying, so it is plus 320 grams from where we started. Well, it could have been worse. We started this stash busting journey with 377.5 100-gram balls of yarn. If we add on the 320 grams, round it slightly to the nearest quarter, that's 380.75 100-gram balls of yarn. Well, we knew it was going to get worse before it got better. Hopefully, after I have made all of those presents at the retreat, things will have massively improved.